The following is a continuation of an analysis of the all-kill chapter. Let's keep going. Yun-Jin has since found the murder scream sample and is getting very suspicious. There's a line. She stared at Ji-Woon on the other side of the booth's glass window. I've talked about reflections enough, and I think I can identify the writer's thought process quite clearly. But visual images aside, what does this say about Yun-Jin's mentality? Denial, sheer and simple. Maybe there's still room to doubt, the evidence is still quite weak, but couldn't she at least tell someone? No artist would have survived the scandal. Yun-Jin's career, no, her life, would be over. All she had would be destroyed. A wave of nausea surged over her. It's denial for the sake of her career, but the part that isn't mentioned is a case of plausible deniability. It seems that didn't cross her mind. If Ji-Woon is arrested and apprehended, she can simply play ignorant and her career might still survive. Hell, I'm prepared to bet it might increase album sales because the people love a serial killer. She can just play the unknowing friend and make a fortune on interviews and the like. Maybe this is a reflection of my own cynicism, but even my cold outlook doesn't excuse her for a clear lack of responsibility. Yes, she could easily blame him, and I don't think this is an example of alloplastic defences given the extreme and unusual circumstances, but still, yes, I know she hasn't committed a legal crime, but still, she saw behind that mask but didn't acknowledge it. And some DVD players have had an issue about Ji-Woon being the only killer so far to not wear a mask or be so badly disfigured you can barely tell what their ethnicity is. But no mask? Think again. The narcissist is nothing but a mask that covers total emptiness. There is no substance, and that's the point. To portray the trickster as he truly looks would be far nastier than the hag during a hangover. No offence, Lisa, but, you're grossly overrated. I want to look at real-world serial killers that are known to be diagnosed with NPD and see how they compare. Rodney Alcala, Dennis BTK Rader, Ted Bundy, and Dennis Nilsen. Their murders had a sexual component to them, as do many non-narcissistic psychopathic serial killers. It's a myth that all psychopaths are narcissists. But Rodney Alcala staged his victims as well. Dennis Nilsen was a psychopath narcissist serial killer. He displayed the bodies in his own house for his own pleasure. Nilsen liked to have them. Once they had been strangled to death, they were totally under his control and fully posable. Aesthetic and beautiful, like his dead grandfather was all those years ago. Nilsen also found a curious beauty in death and murder, but of course the authorities never saw these displays. Jeffrey Dahmer was somewhat similar. Gorgeous bodies aside, there is another aspect that comes up a lot with serial killers: taunting the police, and even deliberately leaving clues. The Zodiac Killer is a prime example, as is David Berkowitz, who left a note. Although Berkowitz was more of an ASPD/proto-incel than a narcissist. Colin Ireland also corresponded with the police, but as far as I know, he wasn't a narcissist either. Dennis Rader, diagnosed NPD, taunted and teased the authorities, and eventually that's what got him caught. There is a narcissistic desire for attention from these people, and some say they want to be caught so they can begin their grim and soulful legend. Does Ji-Woon want to be caught? Maybe subconsciously? Does he want to be stopped? Quite a lot of serial killers were apprehended in silly ways. Dennis Nilsen's drains were blocked with human skin, and there's even a theory he told to the councils his drains were blocked, which started the investigation. Did he want to be caught? Was he just fed up of it all? In any case, maybe we should all be thankful that real-world killers typically don't have Ji-Woon's flair. But all too quickly, we're reaching the main event, ladies and gentlemen. Attention is attention, and as far as the narcissist is concerned, there's no such thing as bad publicity. But he didn't just kill for attention, maybe not even for attention at all. But now something has come along and ruined his world. Ji-Woon is losing creative control as Mighty One executives look to cut costs. So he starts to put his plan into action. If they couldn't understand his art, he would incorporate them into it until they did. He had 3 months until he was to perform a private show for Mighty One's board members. 3 months to plan his magnum opus. Again, that term magnum opus shows up. It's now we need to talk about narcissistic injury. Basically, an injury is something that questions the narcissist's grandiosity. Any challenge or perceived challenge, any questioning, anything other than compliance is considered kind of blasphemy to the narcissist. Narcissists are hypervigilant and reactive to such slights. This behaviour leaves people feeling like they're walking on eggshells in the narcissist's presence. Any moment he might lash out and attack. This is not normal. It's abuse. But the writer didn't really delve into what Ji-Woon was like socially off stage. We're dealing with a significant injury to his career, a source of secondary narcissistic supply. The injury threatens Ji-Woon's sense of control, and as I understand it, narcissists are control freaks. They have to be in charge for various reasons, and now he's lost it. Someone else is in control, and I wonder how much envy plays into that injury. But this injury isn't catastrophic. Ji-Woon won't undergo a process known as narcissistic mortification, and I won't go into that, because he's quickly found a way to reassert himself. He's got something very special planned for those who would conspire against him. When a narcissist is placed under enough stress, they mimic a Factor 1 psychopath. Ji-Woon didn't really need stress to tap into that kind of darkness, but now he has a reason to defend himself. He's going to become very goal-oriented and even more ruthless and calculating than we've seen him before, and it's time for Yun-Jin to pay the piper. Ji-Woon gassed them all and tied them up and got to work, but hesitated with Yun-Jin. The woman who had plucked him from a mud hole and set him on the path he deserved. She would be rewarded, granted special access to the coming display of wonder. It's interesting this is his backstory, not hers. She hasn't been mentioned very much, and now he's giving her special treatment. It's not entitlement to want to survive. She's tough, and I think Ji-Woon really does respect her, in his own way. I wonder how he really sees her. I know how he sees the others, though. They're props. Other people are commodities to the narcissist, and here they have become his tools for creation. They're under his complete control and his merciless mercy. When they're all dead and he starts towards Yun-Jin, that fog starts to envelop him. Ji-Woon describes it as comfortable. The entity's touch is comfortable? I can't imagine the fog would be anything but dread and fear and pain and misery. And then it hits me. It's ego-syntonic for the narcissist. His childhood was all of those things, and so he feels at home in a world of despair. This is one reason why narcissists ultimately destroy everything around them. I'm not too happy with this observation, though. It's far from the first time I'm thinking I'm committing conformity bias, and I doubt the writers researched this topic that well. But it's possible. Either way, his newfound sense of comfort is tingled with surprise. Yun-Jin's response doesn't have this element. No, she would not let him kill her. He would pay. He would know her suffering. Suddenly, dark coils of black fog rose from the ground and she was somewhere else. Bright lights flashed and blinded her. A spotlight found her in the darkness. Then a crowd erupted, chanting her name, Magnus Opus, Magnus Opus. And we see her rage, and the enveloping fog was met with expectance. Did she summon the entity? Is she the first survivor who entered its realm willingly by indirectly invoking it? And she did it as a means not only to escape her captor and imminent murderer, but for a new stage on which she can conquer. This kind of determination would frighten Feng Min. It also reminds me of the Spirit, who caught the entity's all-seeing eye thanks to her rage and sheer ferocious grit. Girls in the East are hardcore, apparently, but Yun-Jin is nastier and tougher than all of them. She really is more like a killer than a survivor. Let's look at the flavour text for Yun-Jin's 3 teachable perks. 1. The weak are sacrificed first. It's nature, it's business, it's the truth most refuse to face. 2. I've dealt with psychopaths in suits, you're just uglier and worse dressed. 3. Something I learned in the industry, when the axe is swinging, keep your head down. All quotes from her. She's built to survive, and indeed there's no creature on Earth more adapted to survive than the narcissist. Maybe they'd call it rational self-interest. We can just call it pure selfishness. She smiled, and welcomed the darkness within. Ji-Woon intuitively understands what's in store for him now. All he had to do was accept, become an implement of the fog, and, most importantly, make them scream. Encore. Not so different to the music industry, really. Murder, music, it doesn't matter. And as both a pop star and serial killer, it never did. All that matters is the extraction of narcissistic supply, and he's found an infinite source. He'll never want to leave. Or maybe the champagne will grow stale here as well. I guess that part is up to the player. And so ends their lore. I think I can stand by my point that the writers first wrote down narcissistic personality disorder and just wrote around this as a premise. Everything converges on this central issue, and they've researched the topic into how an individual like this would roughly act. And they had these two represented. These two are as linked as the twins. At best, I can describe this as black on grey morality. They truly deserve each other. What other characters in the deceptively rich DBD universe are remotely like this? I can see a clear similarity between Doctor and Trickster. The former murdered for science, the latter murdered for art. To what extent can a narcissist justify their immoral behaviour for whatever twisted goal they've set out? But what about real killers? How many of you have heard of Christian Bala? He murdered his ex-wife's lover, and it stumped police for years, until they read Bala's first novel, where he'd use his own murder as inspiration for a story. And to quote from Wikipedia, police report evidence found on his computer showed plans for killing a new victim to tie in with his second novel. What do you think of that? I've retread many notes from the first DBD killer narcissist, Ghostface, but I wanted to go much more thorough here because I feel this deserves it. This doesn't get talked about enough, and I've wanted to say all this for a while now. This script was the first one written and inspired me to do this project, and this DLC brought me back to Dead by Daylight after over a year. Lastly, the framing of the victim in the tome. It was a special touch as the Trickster. An innocent person was killed, and Ji-Woon's tracks were covered. This level of deviousness is similar to the case of John Christie, who also got an innocent man killed. This was the real main event of the Trickster. I don't think his name, the Trickster, fits. It's not as bad as the Ghostface, which to this day still rubs me the wrong way, but Trickster doesn't do Ji-Woon justice. I also don't think his power is all that interesting, and I partially agree that he's a derivative huntress slash plague slash glow stick chucking loon. He's not terribly competitive either. He did get some buffs which put him in a better place, but it's not what I imagined. I think these issues can be resolved by making the Trick Blades add-on base kit. These allow his blades to ricochet off the walls for some tricky plays, and gives this character more individuality, and make him more competitive. If that's too overpowered, maybe the developers could make it so the blades only ricochet once and or deal half laceration damage? I don't know. Balancing these things is more complicated than the fussy fan base would care to admit. Regardless, in spite of everything I've written with regards to the lore, I don't like this character. And I mean, I really don't like this character. Not they're good but I'm bad like Nurse, Huntress or Blight, but they're just not much fun. We're in hag territory here, and I'm just at a loss. After all that, the Trickster just isn't the killer for me. I do love the lore though, and with a little luck I can persuade someone else that there's more going on here than they first thought. That there is something more to the All Kill chapter.